It's really wonderful to see a mountain and to climb it and you put your flat on top of it. It's really wonderful to want to create your own mountain so that you can climb it and put your flat on top of it. But it is also wonderful to know why you are doing that or why you are compelled to climb mountain in the first place. And you might discover that everyone value mountain, that you actually love the sea and perhaps swimming is what really should be doing. And if you're calling a mountain, then by all means to go to climb the mountain. But if you have questions about the sea, you might as well run the experiment and see what happens. Like me to involve, and if you're not, of all things, small incremental changes that build up over time to create a large change, then you are probably dead. And that shouldn't really be a goal of anyone. Like, I think every day, I get up and I say, what am I priorities? And then I move toward that aim. Sometimes honestly, my priorities are to see how many back-to-back episodes of whatever I'm watching on Netflix I can watch. If I what kind of introvert Sunday that I need. You know, for introduction might be best self out in the world Monday morning, and sometimes if you know how much of my to-do list I can crank through before lunch. And so I tell myself that these to-do lists are the things that are on it and also insignificant compared to the things that I have already done, or I have already survived, or have already accomplished. That is was laughable. Not everything they can send there on my to-do list. Like they are acting mocking at me. So if you can get to the point where you can say, well, I have already pushed through something uncomfortable, or I have already done something that I didn't think that's what I was able to do, didn't have skill to do, didn't have confidence to even try, but yes, circumstance intervened, and I will for sure, I will already done this thing that I didn't in contest, maybe work in personal contest, but not in career contest, or in my case, they were in theater, and not necessarily work, but I have already is, proof of concept is already there, so what reason do I have to believe that this is not going to work again? So not thinking about it at this entire novel new thing because you do get a free response to new things. Because the brain trying to rotate us from, things that's maybe dangerous that we don't know anything about and we're realizing that in fitness family test that's just the clock and the new environment. And so I think that it was lot of be safe for looking back on our success and not just approaching them, but really recognizing that the new challenges, in fact, our dragon were already slain. A lot of early acknowledgement that I have made were because I didn't realize well one option, and there's actually a type of method for teaching. I also use reliability and I was taught with the Suzuki method. If you look up Suzuki method, you have all these little 4, 5, 6 0 and you play reliability. Consider that for beyond what you think somebody of that age should be able to do, and it's because nobody told them that they shouldn't be able to do, and that's so that well, basically my reality, I was told, well, you're 11, you're gonna be start with to cholesterol went to the expectation, you're supposed to get good grades. So I did. Every time they were poor, but in front of me, I didn't realize you could not accomplish it. So I just did. We will never really know we would have been if we might make like one different decision, way back there in our childhood. But because of the way we brain developed, we are more emotionally susceptible to the experience that we have early on in life than we are later in life. We all have to live in society that's been created for us, and there's certain expectation that one is a contributing member of the community that can be accomplished in many different ways. I think if I had a group of young people that was responsible, I would try and listen more than maybe my parents did to what each of them. I certainly wouldn't try and mentor of them because you can do that. Right, but demonstration where they can find people to emulate and to look up to and address right instruction because the worst thing in the world is to have an exclusive mind or have question and to not though the correct people have the right resources to get an answer. So the youthful brain is still plastic, is still developing, and is more susceptible to information in certain ways in what in other. I would use story. I would use an imaginative language and humor, but there's a certain amount of finishing that's happened in the last few years in the early 20s, which is the full development of prefrontal contact with is sort of remarkable both for those our ability to think logically and to predict outcomes and also for maybe a little bit for us to project the negative outcome as well, right? So optimism follow victim to reality, brain are lazy because most of nature is lazy. There has to be justifiable reason for our energy output, you know, because that using resources that are important for our survival. So if our brains are lazy and they follow the process that is for them to follow. If you have constantly trained your brain and through like reframing, not a both step, the optimistic outcome is the one to think about, and it has to work very hard to think about the negative one is unless it's feeling threatened in some way. It will go seem good enough because it's a prediction machine. Like I never it at what's going to happen is when we have positive outcome. There might be other factor, but energy that would be expanding thinking about the factor doesn't seem in line with this necessary for the important decision. Our decision you so good enough. Our brain really don't like to be bored. They get very unhappy if they are under stimulation, and then that can go to solving the problem in many different ways. Not just how can I solve a problem sometimes, but how can I ensure that it's not going to be a problem in the long run. Emotions were not useful, you know. It's actively a destructive thing in that I had to build my entire life entirely logically. Now let's obviously like we are humans, so that it is possible. We make emotional decisions all the time, but a youthful developing brain think that this is something that can be done. That you can, always do the right thing, the right as start to learn about the brain as I start to learn about myself. I realized that I didn't have a lot of preparation and see what would happen. I just let them come. As smart people experience with this and delusions, but they don't know their experience. So you need this emotion. They just thinking how I am. This is who I am, right? They don't think about it in abstract way. I went to New York and I trained at Alvin, a school British every school of modern dance. There is a modern and I was gonna be a dancer, but then there was short track of break in the first line a little bit. I was in which from view and when you're a dancer, especially when you're young dancer, you treat it as if you don't have a papillon. You are simply a body and a artistic director and the choreographer or the teaching is giving you input and you have to give it back. And first time I already had a particular decoration in biometry. That was a really satisfying and it's a turkey for Thanksgiving because then you fall asleep because try to find I would like to do how many turkey you have to but each but I digress. All I have for women instead is that they stop worrying about whether they are not fitting in and whether or not they're not are supposed to be emulating the men are making porn of being female and then they start just taking things taking the power taking their place at the table and not asking permission for it. And we have all these childrenizing women that had to do they had to take so many classes in the academia, the ancient Ivory Tower that is, and they are still there, still broken. But I think for the message thing, we are always trying to immerse them now. And women in coding and source, I think of it's like I hope this is in a friendship. Last time in the beach, and nobody like We just put enough movement into the pipeline, and the fact that it's only key won't be a problem. We eventually get enough of them through to gentle track positions that this will start to be one step feedback loop. And I think that for the massive, it can be very difficult to be at your best when you constantly looking over your shoulder and wondering if being you is enough.